told me not to drink any wine or beer and not to eat food that isn't kosher. For the baby is going to be a Nazarite. He will be dedicated to God from the moment of his birth. From the moment of his birth, he will be dedicated to God until the day of his death. So Samson's wife broke down in tears before him and said, "You don't love me at all. You hate me, for you have told a riddle to my people and haven't told me the answer." She's like, "I haven't even told it to my father or mother. Why should I tell you?" He replied. So she cried whenever she was with him and kept it up for the remainder of the celebration. This girl was committed. At last, on the seventh day, he told her the answer. And she went, of course, gave the answer to the young men. So before sunset of the seventh day, they gave him their reply. "What is sweeter than honey?" they asked, "and what is stronger than a lion? If you haven't plowed with my heifer, you wouldn't have found the answer to my riddle," he retorted. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he went to the city of Ashkelon, killed 30 men, took their clothing, and gave it to the young men who had told him the answer to his riddle. But he was furious about it and abandoned his wife and went back home to live with his father and mother. So his wife was married instead to the fellow who had been best man at Samson's wedding. Later on, during the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat as a present to his wife, intending to sleep with her, but her father wouldn't let him in. "I really thought you hated her," he explained, "so I married her to your best man. But look, her sister is prettier than she is. Marry her instead." Samson was furious. Furious. "You can't blame me for whatever happens now," he shouted. So he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied their tails together. He tied their tails together in pairs, with a torch between each pair. Then he lit the torches and let the foxes run through the fields of the Philistines. Run through the fields of the Philistines, burning the grain to the ground along with all the sheaves and shocks of grain, and destroying the olive trees. "Who did this?" the Philistines demanded. "Samson," was the reply. "Because his wife's father gave her to another man." So the Philistines came and got the girl and her father and burned them alive. "Now my vengeance will strike again," Samson vowed. prison, but before long his hair began to grow again. His hair began to grow again. The Philistine leaders declared a great festival to celebrate the capture of Samson. The people made sacrifices to their god Dagon and excitedly praised him. Our God has delivered our enemy Samson to us. They gloated as they saw him there in chains. The scourge of our nations, who killed so many of us, is now in our power. Half drunk by now, the people demanded, "Bring out Samson so we can have some fun with him." So he was brought from the prison and made to stand at the center of the temple between the two pillars supporting the roof. Samson said to the boy who was leading him by the hand, "Place my hands against the two pillars. I want to rest against them." By then the temple was completely filled with people. The 5 Philistine leaders were there as well as 3,000 people in the balconies who were watching Samson and making fun of him. Then Samson prayed to the Lord and said, "O Lord Jehovah, remember me again. Please strengthen me one more time so that I may pay back the Philistines for the loss of at least one of my eyes." Then Samson pushed against the pillars with all his might. "Let me die with the Philistines," he prayed, and the temple crashed down upon the Philistine leaders and all the people. So those he killed at the moment of his death were more than he had killed during his entire lifetime. Later, his brothers and other relatives came down to get his body, and they brought him back and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol, where his father Manoah was buried. He had judged Israel for 20 years. It's a tragedy. But now it's time